Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday, October 8th meeting of the Common Council's Finance Committee to discuss the proposed fiscal year 25 city budget. Joining us today, we have committee members Ballerin, Keegan, Farrell, Adams, and myself. We are also joined by other council members, Councilmember Tom Hoey, Chair of Public Safety Committee, and our President Pro Tem, Kelly Kimbrough. What's on the agenda for today, we are going to go over the proposed fire department budget, and we're also going to go over the proposed police department budget for this evening. And we are also joined by city staff, including our city clerk, Shaniqua Jackson, our deputy clerk, Demetra Brown, our legislative analyst. I think he has a promotion title, though. Brian Jimenez, Legislative Director Brian Jimenez, and our Junior Policy Analyst, Alyssa Camara. All right, with that, what we are going to do is go in the order that we have here on the agenda. So we're going to do fire and police, but first we will start with our public comment. We have received a couple public comments for tonight. To start, we have Kelly Parker. You can join us up here at the front for your comment. And you will have 3 minutes. Just make sure you state your name and address for the record when you start.
Kelly Parker, I'm the president for the Arlington. Thank you. Can you hear me? No?
Can you bring it a little bit closer?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Kelly Parker, I'm the president of the Albany Police Department Non-Sworn Union, Local 3185. I'm from Albany. Start? Good. I'm here today because it's my only opportunity to speak on the budget as it pertains to our local. Let me start by saying I have been employed by the city for over 29 years, the majority in the police department. In fact, if you were to take a look at our local, you will see that many of us are what we jokingly refer to as lifers. Yet for the lack of a better term, we are a dying breed due to the city's unwillingness to acknowledge the roles we play. Mayor Sheehan boasted that 10 of 12 contracts have been settled, which include all bargaining units in the police department. This is simply not the case. In fact, the only 2 bargaining units that remain are in the police department. It is very disheartening to hear that we are not considered a part of that police department. We are not police officers, but we are that department's backbone. We handle the day-to-day operations within all the units. We're responsible for ensuring that warrants are processed, that victims of domestic violence are met with respect and care during their tumultuous process. We're the reason that crime statistics are available. We are animal control. We handle the tracking and disbursement of overtime. We handle the entire fleet of vehicles and all the budget it includes. We are supervisors responsible for more staff and in most cases more responsibilities than a lieutenant. We are the central booking unit, processing all arrests, responsible for the well-being of people in our custody, including those in an altered mental state, exposed to hazards, sometimes biohazards, of working in a police environment. It is also our union that's responsible for those cleanups, as well as the building maintenance for all the other departments' facilities. Our stance during negotiations has been, we are making far less than what our duties require. We have come to the city multiple times with attempts to come up with reasonable compromises to their demands, each time denied without a counteroffer. Using scare tactics and I quote, "We can't all drive Beamers. I, for one, am a single parent of 2. I will keep my beat-up car, but what I am doing is striving to afford milk and bread after my bills are paid, and that's barely. Please take into consideration that on top of the lack of compensation, we are now required to live in the city. Rent typically costs more than owning a home, but to get a mortgage, you have to have an income. Albany has some of the highest rent prices in the county. How does a matron in central booking survive on $33,000 gross pay? Due to lack of proper staffing, the city's only recourse has been nothing less than to slap in our face. Instead of recognizing the people that have been doing these jobs for years, the recent solution has been to change a few sentences in a job description and to create a new title. For example, just last year, crime advocates positions were created. We have intake specialists in our union. Why are you not utilizing those titles or any others that fit? The reason is the pay's too low. I'm sure you can imagine the situations we encounter daily working in a police environment. It is very different than any other department in the city. We work in a paramilitary environment and are held to the same standards as a police officer. Many of the new positions also add qualifications, and they put them out of our reach. Despite the time we have in the department, the roles we have played, or the knowledge that comes with that, we are often disqualified from new positions, in some cases just because we lack a college degree. In cases where there are mandatory positions that are from our union that are vacant, it is the police officers covering those vacancies. A senior police officer's overtime rate is $59.31. The vacant position that they're backfilling for us starts at $19.50. That's almost a $40 difference. I ask, where is the fiscal responsibility in that? Our union has not been unreasonable with our demands, yet we're told time and time again there isn't money in the budget. This was months ago. We are not at the budget presentation. There was time to settle our contracts, which expired in 2023. I do, however, see that white-collar positions have been granted raises. In fact, last year, in the police department alone, it was between 5% and 33%. This year, another 4%. The mayor stated that all these raises were because of cost of living. There is even a raise in the budget for a chief of staff in the police department. At this point, it really doesn't exist. To be honest, I'm not really even sure why it's necessary. We have a chief, we have 2 deputy chiefs, and we have 5 commanders. But I can't have a raise after 29 years. And speaking of the white-collar raises, I would also like to point out this budget is very convoluted. I see salary ranges. My question is, where does each employee fall within that range? How much is actually spent on each salary for those employees? These are fair questions after explaining our situation. Thank you.
Thank you for your time, Ms. Parker. Yes, and we do have a question on the floor from Councilmember Ballerin.
I'm sorry, and I know this isn't proper protocol, so thank you, Chair, for allowing me this. How many members are in your union?
I believe we have 37 right now.
And if what are the titles, just so we have a better understanding?
They vary from, they go animal control, we have data entry operators, we have clerk 2s, there's a ton of computer techs. It's actually in our contract. I can email you a copy of our contract, and it's right in the back of our contract which titles we cover.
And your contract expired in
12/31 of 23.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have one more question,
Okay.
if you can. Councilmember Keegan, it looks like we might have another question from Councilmember Hoey as well.
I just have a quick question for you. We advocated for bringing on social workers into APD, which are, of course, part of the non-sworn staff now under APD. As part of your ongoing contract negotiations, did you request that those titles be brought into the union?
Not at this point, and as far as I know, none of those titles are filled for the positions. You're talking about like in the units themselves from last year's budget that you added?
Yep.
To my knowledge, we did not, but to my knowledge, there isn't anybody in those positions.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
I'm sure that'll come up during the police conversation that we have. And Councilmember Hoey, to round it out.
Sure, real fast. I didn't catch what local that you're,
The Albany Police Department, non-sworn, local 3185?
385?
3185.
3185. And, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, Ms. Parker.
Yes, I'm going to email it. Do you want? Okay. All right. Good. Turn this off.
And for the record, we are also joined by Councilmember Anane this evening. With that, we have one more public comment for tonight, and that is Mr. Kevin McGreary. Can you please join us here up at the front? Sorry for the delay there,
No
Mr.
problem.
McGreary. If you can just state your name and address for the record, then go into your public comment.
Kevin McGeary, 39 Quail Street, Albany, New York.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Kevin McGeary, the Vice President of the Albany Firefighters Union. I am a lieutenant on Engine 1 with 12 years on the department. Our priorities are clear and unwavering. We ensure around-the-clock emergency response to Albany's residents, businesses, and visitors. We ensure the men and women working on shift get home safe, and we ensure the long-term well-being of our firefighters and their families. The budget you will consider provides resources to the department, and while the budget maintains full staffing, what it does not guarantee is the confidence that critical trainings are occurring on a timely and ongoing basis. The Arbor Hill-based technical rescue company, our rescue squad, is a linchpin of the fire department's hazardous response. They are dispatched across the city to address dangerous, technically challenging incidents in environments such as swift water and riverfront shorelines, high and low angle rope system rescue, confined space rescue, hazmat incidents, and vehicle extrications on top of the normal fire response we do. Our department has regular retirements, promotions, and reassignments. This requires immediate and timely training to sustain the capabilities of our rescue squad. Training keeps us prepared to confront the unexpected. Trainings must be scheduled not episodically or periodically, but regularly and with certainty. We ask you, the Common Council, to explore the commitment of the command staff to ensure that the priorities of the department are synchronized with those of the public and our members. There are understood risks involved being firefighters. We are asking you to optimize our preparation for very real circumstances we confront every day, so we have the best chance to get the public and our members home safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. That is what we have for this evening's public comments. So we're going to go into our first presentation, and that will be the Fire Department. We are joined by Chief Gregory and our Budget Director, Gideon Grande. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. Absolutely. Whenever you're ready, you can go into your presentation.
Great. Good evening, Common Council members. As stated, my name is Joe Gregory. I'm the Chief of Department for your Albany Fire Department. I'd just like to welcome some of our command staff and folks that we have present at our meeting today to acknowledge them. We have Deputy Chief David Newton, Deputy Chief Brian Wolfgang, and our Chief Fiscal Manager, Eric Reamer, along with our union representatives and our firefighters. Kevin McGeary, Lieutenant Kevin McGeary, firefighter Dave Galati, who is the secretary of our union, and Lieutenant Jonathan Green, who is also joining us as an executive board member. So I thank them for coming and hopefully supporting our quest to make the Albany Fire Department even better than it is. So first off, I'm not going to read the slides if that's okay with you. I know you've all had a copy of the slides. So if I could just touch on some of the finer points of our slide presentation, I will take care of that for you. So we always like to begin showing the mission of your Albany Fire Department. We've made some updates to this slide to more accurately reflect all aspects of our job and the work we do day in and day out. We emphasize that we do more than just respond to fires, as Lieutenant McGeary had mentioned. We consider ourselves a dynamic all-hazards fire department. So, basically, as part of our mission, we're constantly striving to directly reach and educate our residents and the community. I know these are common topics that have come up in the past here at our budget presentations. So in addition, we talk about our Division of Safety and Training as well as our Fire Prevention and Investigation units. So in addition to their tactical duties within the AFD, described on this slide, our Division of Training and Safety, along with our Fire Investigation unit, they act as direct liaisons to connect us with the communities we serve, which brings us to the next slide. So you can see here some of the various groups that we commonly work with. We are on slide number 4 right now. It says community outreach engagement events. So these are some of the various groups that we commonly work with. We do participate in multiple community events every week, many of which are on weekends. We can go to the next slide. So our community outreach engagements. This is a follow-up to the previous slide with a detailed breakdown of the current calendar year, which shows you the number of participants that we've encountered during these multiple events. And the next slide can show you some of our activities of our firefighters as they reach out to the community members, both big people and small people. So we have great participation, and all of our events we seem to be very popular, as Mr. Ballerin can attest to. So our response data. Here you can see a comparison or a breakdown of the various types of calls that we've responded to over the past 7 years. So we do track a lot of data to monitor our progress. So if you see, we talk about structure fires, we talk about all other fires. That all other fires really encompasses vehicle fires, outside rubbish fires, brush fires, dumpster fires, that type of a call. You'll see emergency medical responses are a prevalent number there. We are the primary care provider, as you know, for both basic and advanced life support for the city of Albany. The all other responses, that encompasses some of the hazmat calls. Some of, we do encounter quite a few white powder incident calls that we respond to, various outside smoke in the area, electrical and gas emergencies, and mutual aid calls outside of the city. This slide is not something that we put out very often, but we talk about the overdose epidemic. And this epidemic is obviously an ongoing high interest topic for all first responders and community members. The chart contains a lot of data components related to the various overdose calls that we do respond to. And I guess now is a good time to mention that we do have this data. We do present it to our senior staff members and to other organizations that we work with that help us to hopefully combat some of these incidents or some of this problem that's going on. And we can make that data more available to you folks if you'd like that. We have some extensive data that we track, and it's basically from our response calls and from our information that we gather as the first responders. Okay, we skip one if we go back. Okay. So this slide here is basically that's a heat map that portrays the areas that we respond to. So we're able to heat map all the information, and we do track all these different, all our responses throughout the city, and you can see how widespread this issue is. So it's something that's of concern to us, and that's one of the main reasons that we track quite a bit of data on this. So the 2024 highlights. So the next two slides are pretty exciting for us and important for us. As Kevin mentioned earlier, we constantly strive to reach and maintain our fully staffed budgeted positions of 260 members. Right now we're down 6 positions. So we are in pretty good shape right now. We have, you'll see that we reference some lateral transfers that we have hired. We're the first department in the area that instituted that from the fire department side. And a lot of other departments are now following our lead to elicit members to their department. These members come fully trained, and we put them through an orientation, so it does shorten our training cycle for them to get them out onto the streets. And that last portion we talk about is our partnership with National Grid. We have a lot of partnerships that we've enabled throughout the past several years. And National Grid is one that we're very proud of. They have helped us a lot. They've come and done electric and gas training for our firefighters several times in the past few years, which has been very beneficial to all of the members of our department. And actually, the program that they presented to us is so beneficial that National Grid recently asked us to provide them a letter of recommendation so that they could go out and move this this program to other fire departments throughout the state. So we're pretty proud of that. And National Grid has been a very good partner to us as far as also giving us equipment. They've provided remote methane laser detectors to us that are about $7,500 a piece, and they gave us 6 meters that we've distributed throughout the city. So this is a very helpful tool for our firefighters and the community, so in the event of a natural gas leak. In addition of our highlights, we talk about revamping our paramedic units. We've retrofitted 2 of our paramedic units and built a brand new 3rd paramedic unit to put in service. We are very happy with that. It's something that's been long overdue. It's been a problem for us during the COVID crisis. So we're finally moving this along, and we're finally getting this program back on track. These units will now have state-of-the-art NFPA lighting on it, which exceeds actually the NFPA standard. And they all will carry state-of-the-art medical equipment that we have just purchased for our department. So we talk about the purchase of Ladder 3, the replacement for Ladder 3. It's a purchase of a new ladder truck. Ladder 3 is located up on Breveter Street. So that's something that we're going to be replacing. So we do have a plan, and we'll talk about that a little later as we work through our presentation. And then last but not least on our slide here, we talk about the Defender Rescue Boat, which is it's a rescue boat that replaced an older Achilles boat that we store at Arbor Hill. It's on a trailer, and it can be rapidly deployed if necessary in the event of a water rescue. So it makes it for a much more rapid response for us. So I'll turn this over to our colleague, Mr. Grande, our budget director, to talk a little bit about our numbers here, and then I can come back and just highlight a few of our notes.
Yeah, so the fire department budget for 2025 is fairly flat to 2024 adopted. You can see we've added 1 additional position. That is a transfer of a position from community services over to fire to handle with housing and other emergency social service needs of individuals who are displaced by fire, flood, or any other natural disaster that fire responds to. Other than that, it's pretty much very similar to last year's budget and just normal increases throughout the budget. You know, a little bit of a reduction in equipment offsetting increases elsewhere. Excuse me, to make a somewhat overall $43 million budget for the fire department.
Okay.
We are good, thank you.
Okay. One thing that we'd like to point out, and we mentioned with Gideon, we talk about it all the time. We constantly watch numbers throughout the country. That's part of the job for our fire departments. You know, and we compare. We do have to compare with other departments and look at other departments and how they operate. That helps us to become more efficient. And one of the things noted as far as budget numbers go is that the average fire department budget throughout the country, and again, it's an average, is 85% personal services and 15% for an operating budget. The Albany Fire Department's budget is 93% personal services and 7% operating. So that puts us at a slight deficit. So, I mean, we understand our program, we understand our needs, we understand our place, but if we have to compare with the national numbers, that's where we stand. And then, again, keying in off of, things that Kevin mentioned earlier, in looking up, they talk about key fiscal year budget essentials for public safety agencies throughout the country, and they have 3 targets. Comprehensive policies and procedures, something that we're working on to enhance our policies and procedures through an outside vendor that's going to help us to keep on par and maybe exceed what, is going on throughout the country. Targeted training programs, which is something that we agree with the union that we need to do more of that, and that's our goal. And we have plans worked out as we speak. And then last but not least, wellness initiatives. And that's something that's very important to us. The health and safety of our members is paramount. So that's one of our goals. So we'll talk about the 2025 goals. The slide that's up, it's slide number 14. So the first point goes back to our previous slides highlighting our community engagement programs. We're very proud of that. We've gotten out into the community much more and have reached out, and we feel we've made an impact. As you know, we've partnered with many agencies, and it's worked out very well for us and the community, we feel. Another point is that we're hopefully preparing to hire a new class of probationary firefighters in the latter part of this year, early part of next year, to keep our numbers up. We want to maintain as close as we can to our 260 budgeted positions. That's something that's helpful to, from a budget perspective. It's also helpful for a firefighter safety perspective. So that's something that we want to ensure happens. And we'll talk about firefighter wellness and health and safety. We're going to continue with cancer screening. Unfortunately, we have to look at that. We look at that very closely. We have in the past, we've conducted skin cancer screenings for our firefighters. We've done, and this is all in conjunction with the union. We worked on abdominal cancer screening, which has worked very well. And unfortunately, members of our department have found things, but luckily they found that we've also scheduled esophageal cancer screenings, which is something that's new to the fire departments around the country, and it's a pre-screening for esophageal cancer, which is they're finding as high numbers in the fire service from the types of calls that we go on. But so that is important. And while we're on the topic of health and safety, we'd also like to bring up a good point, is that the Albany Rotary Club has contacted us, and they asked us if we would nominate a member to be honored at the end of the month. And what we have proposed to honor firefighter Trevor Everts. He is in charge. He has taken control of, as the director of our Albany Firefighters Cancer and Disability Foundation. That was formerly known as my Brothers and Sisters Keeper Foundation. He's taken this program to a new level. He not only helps firefighters and their families dealing with medical hardships, but this organization has also grown and expanded its reach to now support other fire departments and outside community groups as well. So we're very proud to nominate him for that award, and we feel that this organization is doing a great job and should be acknowledged. So we just wanted to bring that up on a positive note for the health and wellness. So our 2025 goals. So we're constantly striving to be at the table and in the lead for other agencies. We feel we are leaders. Our department is a leader. We act as lead agency in a recent Port of Albany drill, which was a hazardous materials drill. We took control. It was a multi-agency, multi-county drill that your Albany Fire Department was the lead agency. We also, which you already know, we are the lead agency in the city's emergency management team. So in the event of an incident or a crisis, whether it's here within the city or it's outside of the city, the fire department takes the lead on that and makes all the contacts for that. And last but not least, I'm sure you've all read about the hospital issues and hospital delays. So we're working with Albany Medical Center now to see if we can resolve some of those issues. You know, that provides better care for our patients and gets our firefighters back in service quickly here in the city, so that we can provide better care and continue to provide the best care that we can to our city residents. So our capital budget, I'll turn that over to our budget director.
Yeah, so 3 projects for the fire department this year, pretty much standard replacement and upkeep projects. We have a $200,000 cash to capital project for fire and EMS protective equipment to ensure that we have turnout gear and other items to make sure that our firefighters are safe as they're doing their jobs. We have $1.75 million for the purchase of a new ladder truck in 2025. We generally buy 1 to 2 pieces of apparatus each year just to keep that replacement schedule going. These vehicles tend to take 2, maybe sometimes even 3 years to get. So it's important that we keep these vehicles ordered and in the pipeline. I don't think we've even gotten the one we ordered in 22 yet. So there shows you some of the delays. And then, you know, all of our fire facilities are generally aging, and a few of them are over or approaching 100 years old. So just some continued capital maintenance at those facilities.
Yeah, to our budget director's point, it does take now up to 3 years to purchase fire apparatus, to build a fire apparatus. So we're still waiting on. We still have 2 engines on order that should be in. Probably they keep pushing the delivery date back. It's sometime around March or April of this year is what we've been told. And we have one ladder company that's been ordered, and we expect delivery on that in the latter part of January. That's something that we are waiting for. But again, it's all based on there are so many delays out there, product delays. So it's something that we keep an eye on and we keep track of, but it's out of our control. So the next slide, number 17, is it shows it's our apparatus inventory and replacement schedule. The sheet probably looks familiar to us. We present this every year. This is our ongoing, constantly updated apparatus inventory and our 15-year replacement schedule. So we do plan out into the future. We have that. We have that schedule. We keep again a detailed database on our apparatus. We try and move apparatus around if need be to extend the life of the apparatus. But we do monitor this, and we can. I know it's difficult to see. We can send this out if need be. But using this schedule, we're able to accurately track the status of our fleet, and pre-plan properly and responsibly for our replacements, for our new apparatus and our reserve apparatus. The next slide, slide number 9 or 18, is a breakdown of the replacement plan by unit or company. So that just goes to show you a little bit. It's a little broader. It's a little broader here to show how we sketch it out for our 15 years replacement plan. And I know we always bring, there's always a question on electric vehicles, and which is something in the future. So if we can just talk briefly about that now, I'll speak to that. So we have Export Electric Fire Apparatus. It's something that's out. I know everyone has seen it. It's been in the news. Right now, it's something that's still in the fledgling stage. The fire service has not totally gone on board with that yet. In addition, we have some issues that would be that we've explored and talked to our dealers and other fire departments throughout the country, some of which that our budget director has brought up. We have state of the last century firehouses throughout the city. So it's not as easy as just buying an electric fire truck and parking it in a firehouse. There's a lot that comes with that. There's major transitions to firehouses, electrical feeds, exhaust feeds, for other equipment that we have in that firehouse. So we'd have to move around and basically rebuild the interior of firehouses. And I don't know if we'd have to. Again, there's just more to it than just buying a piece of apparatus and placing it into a firehouse. So, and that's something that it's not just a fire department decision, that's an interdepartmental decision. That's something that we'd have to work with our engineering department to look to accomplish. But we have done some stuff as far as transitioning to battery-operated equipment. We have battery-operated extrication tools, state-of-the-art battery-operated extrication tools. We have state-of-the-art battery-operated ventilation tools. So we are looking to the future with that, but the actual fire apparatus itself is something that we need to take a good, strong look at before we dive into it, because it's, in addition to being an extremely costly venture for the apparatus itself, it's the adjustments and modifications to the firehouses that would have to come into play. So, and then last but not least, it wouldn't be an Albany Fire Department presentation if I didn't make sure that everybody here knows that we are Albany's bravest. You know, and we're proud to be your Albany Fire Department. So, with that concludes our presentation.
Thank you, Chief Gregory, for your presentation, and we are proud to have you as our fire department. So I'll say it back to you. Appreciate everything you and your department do every day for our city. With that, we are going to go into questions from committee members first, and then other council members. I'm just going to check to see who has questions. Councilmember Ballerin.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Chief. And thank you for the fire men and women for the work they do every day to keep our city safe. And for those who have joined us here today, thank you for taking your time to be here. My questions are going to be quick and brief. So training was mentioned by one of our public comments. I see that it's gone from 49,000 to 60 for next year. Do you think that's sufficient? Do you think you need more? Do you think you have flexibility within the budget? You know, we want to make sure everyone that's putting themselves at risk has the proper training of how to be able to deal with different situations that may and unfortunately probably will occur. So that was question number one.
Well, you're asking a firefighter if that's a sufficient amount. Of course, we're going to say no. We'd like more money. We would like to look to increase the training. We know costs have risen, so if we hire outside contractors, outside agencies to come in and train our members, it is a costly venture. So it's something that we have spoken with the budget director about. We are working on it, and I think that you know, there's always room for more for the fire service. So we'd like to you know, we'd like to explore that more, and that's a discussion I think that we would have, you know, with and the budget director's made it clear that he's very open to discussions with us. And with that, I mean, I'd also like to say, to compliment the budget staff, they're very open to us. They do come to our headquarters and meet with us regularly to go over current situations. Now that we have a CFM, we're working closely with budget to monitor our expenditures, and you know, we do our best to be as prudent as possible, but again, safety is paramount. So we're not afraid to ask in the future. So I hope that answers your question.
Well,
I guess the basic answer would be yes, we'd like more.
Okay, and I appreciate that, and I understand the difficult position that you're in, and I do understand the difficult position that you're in, Chief, and I also appreciate our budget director and his willingness to work within our restraints and work with all different departments to make the final number work. And that's why we have multi-levels of government. So, so these type of conversations can be flushed out and continued as the process is. So it's good to hear that information, and I appreciate hearing that. Because I do see it at 60,000 right now, and this is a mistake that was probably made too early in this process when we were talking about other budget lines that, in a $2-point-something $100 million budget, you sometimes can find a little money here and there. So I look forward to those continuous conversations on that specific line to see how we could help get that to a better place.
That'd
to make
be
sure
great.
that everyone gets the training that they need. And so my follow-up question is more of just a technical question. I'm looking at page 122 at the capital improvements for the fire department, and then I'm looking at the slide that shows the capital capital improvement, and then the numbers don't seem to match up. They're pretty close, but they don't match up. So I just want to know what numbers are we really going to be looking to bond for as we get to that process, because on the slide we have 200,000, yet on page 122 we have 225.
Page 122 is 2026.
Oh. So it happens. Okay, thank you. So what page should I be looking at?
2025 is on 117.
Can I say, you guys don't make this easy sometimes. I know. But I just wanted to make sure the numbers we were looking at. Okay, well, that's it. Chair, thank you for your time, and I look forward to those conversations on how we can increase that training line in the future.
Thank you, Councilmember Ballerin. Yeah, and just to extend on what Councilmember Farrell just mentioned, we do not have bonding ordinances yet, but we do anticipate hopefully receiving them by the end of this week and being able to go through those conversations in the future. With that, Councilmember Keegan.
Hi, thank you, Chair, and thank you to both our union members who came in this evening to spend your evening advocating for your members with regards to the budget, as well as AFD leadership for making the time to meet with us this evening. I just have a couple of questions, and not to hit the nail on the head with the training, but do we know, in terms of the types of training, because they're talking about highly technical training, do we know approximately how much it costs for us to do contracted services to put on that training once a year versus twice a year?
There's different ways that we can get training. It's through outside contractors, or we could, there's several ways, I guess we could say. It depends on who's qualified to teach those particular modalities. We're able to look to New York State Office of Fire Prevention and Control, which is through Department of Homeland Security, to attain some of the training. There's outside contractors, and then we also have members on our job that are qualified, that have taken training programs to teach particular modalities for these courses to make our members proficient at their skills.
And do you think that the current budget is adequate to be able to address the union's concerns that as you have transfers or retirements that result in folks with certain specialties either leaving the department or no longer fulfilling that specific role, being able to backfill with the appropriate training throughout the year?
We hope so. The backfill doesn't come out of the training portion. The backfill comes out of the personal services. So, we hope so. We hope that amount is adequate. If it's not, that's a discussion that we need to have with our budget team and our budget director.
Okay. And then my next question, you had highlighted that you purchased a number of heavy tools that were battery operated. Does that mean that the department is looking to transfer to electric versus fueled equipment, or is that something different?
Well, we have received, some of the equipment was through a foundation, some of the equipment was purchased through our city budget. We have transitioned, our extrication tools are now battery operated. So we have the battery operated tools on all four of our ladder companies, as well as our rescue squad. And the ventilation equipment is new technology. We partnered with other fire departments, Rochester Fire Department being one of the main ones, that did a lot of research and worked with we worked with their R&D team, our research and development team, to ensure that these were adequate and ready for fire service use. So we're transitioning to that. That's the way we want to go. It's going to make it a more efficient operation. If we can get away from the gas-powered saws and ventilation tools, that would probably be very helpful. Again, having one type of equipment for our members to work on it makes it safer, so that they learn how to use one piece of equipment, one type of equipment the correct way, the most efficient way.
And I just want to be clear, that's the department's attempt to move away from fossil fuel-based equipment, correct?
It seems to be the move in the fire service. So we're watching that very closely, and as we move along, again, we transition not only saws but cutting tools, extrication tools, spreading tools are all going towards the battery powered. It's the new technology that's out there now, and it gets us away from the units that work off of power supplies or off of our generators on the apparatus.
Okay. And then my other question, and this is probably more of a you question, Gideon. I had thought that we were expending ambulance funds locally as a result of delays in medical care at Albany Med, and I see revenue coming in. I'm not sure quite where we're capturing that, like how we're getting reimbursed for ambulance fees, and I wasn't sure exactly where the expenditures were in the budget for offsetting the wait times at Albany Med, so I was hoping you could help me figure that piece out.
Yeah, in general, the cost for the additional ambulances beyond what the ambulance services feels they can recoup from both private insurance and Medicaid is located in their contractual service line. It's a little over $500,000 per year. So that's where that is for the additional ambulance services. The EMMS ambulance revenue line is a little bit different. They don't quite, I mean, they're connected, but not really in a one-for-one way. That is anything that can be claimed that our fire department did as far as health care for individuals that they, provide health care. They are EMTs, they are paramedics. Our ambulance vendor does do all the medical billing and claiming for that for us. So those are the Medicare and Medicaid and insurance dollars coming back to the city for the healthcare services the fire department is providing.
Okay, thank you so much, because I couldn't quite decipher, and I had thought that we had also expenses related to ambulance services, so thank you.
Councilmember Adams, and then Councilmember Farrell.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you both for being here in the presentation this evening. Just had a brief question in regards to the community outreach specialist position, and just wanted to get a better understanding of what your intentions is of that position within the department, and if there's any other administrative positions that you are missing within your department.
So the community outreach portion, that was moved to our budget because we felt that this person was utilizing their skills to, it's a very unique position. It's somebody that goes out and responds to fires, and as the budget director had mentioned earlier, is able to assist those that are displaced because of major incidents, whether it be fire or some other type of major disaster or incident that happens, and is able to work to relocate them and get them back on their feet. It takes them, he also helps to keep the fire victims, if you want to call it that, or the people that are the affected people together. It helps us it enhances our fire investigation process. It also gives us a better handle on accountability too for an incident. It takes a big burden off the incident commander, whether it be the battalion chief or the company officer that's there to do that. This person is able to provide us with information about that. And it's a very unique thing. It's something that you don't see in a lot of fire departments, and we're kind of proud that we're able to do this. And it's still something that we're building on. So in addition to his duties there, he'd also work at headquarters and assist us in any type of whatever our needs be in headquarters, whether it be distributing equipment to firehouses or looking at firehouse request forms to see what supplies and materials are needed for our firefighters and firehouses. As far as open positions right now, we're interviewing for a administrative assistant position. That's one position that's open. We had requested the Chief Fiscal Manager position, and that was filled by Mr. Eric Reamer, which worked out great for us. And we are still down one Deputy Chief position. So that's next on our agenda.
Well, just a follow-up, excuse me. And in regards to the vacancies that you just mentioned, has that interview process with those other vacant positions started yet? Do you have anyone in mind, or is there someone within the department that are able to then move up into those positions?
Well, for the administrative assistant position, it's still open filing. We have interviewed several people, and we have a few more on the agenda. We're working with Human Resources to bring some additional candidates in to find the best person to fit that position.
Actually, one more question. In regards to the supply clerk, it was a part-time position. It's no longer on the 2025 budget. Just as a point of clarification, was there a reason you did not no longer need that position, or is that consolidated into a new title?
We're hoping to consolidate that position into that community outreach person, so
Okay.
that would fulfill the number of hours that this person is providing to the fire service. So we're essentially going from a part-time position to a full-time position.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Farrell?
Thank you very much. First and foremost, thank you so much for all that you do and for coming in. I just always so appreciate your budget presentation because it is just very thorough and very well thought out. And I'd also really like to thank the union, both unions, but we'll be talking more about the other one later, for coming in and talking about the budget. It's really important to hear directly from our unions and their thoughts on budgets, and we appreciate that the fire department really seems to be very inclusive, or in the process has been very inclusive of the union in the budget process, which is just really important because then we know we can hear feedback and feel a lot more confident in budget choices moving forward. I just have a quick question. It's nice to kind of go later because a lot of people ask your questions. But I just, out of curiosity, was interested. So there's fire trucks can have electric capability? Because a lot of most heavy-duty trucks can't. I mean, buses can because they don't actually carry very much weight, but other than that, I didn't think there was much electric capability for any heavy-duty equipment things.
The major manufacturers now have developed pumpers, engine companies, pumpers, the vehicles that carry water, and they now manufacture, they just, maybe just over the past few years, are starting to manufacture, in the testing process, electric pumpers. So it's very interesting. We don't have any in the area. We've seen them through the manufacturers. They've shown us the vehicles. It's a very interesting concept.
It's exciting that the technology is actually there and that they're working through it. I appreciate that you're waiting to see a bit if it's the right direction with the large investment in fire trucks, and also I know that as much as I love everything electric, and most people know I'm a giant environmentalist and tree hugger and all of those wonderful things, but I also want to make sure that fire trucks get from point A to point B. And I do know with larger vehicles there are issues in the winters too. So
Yeah,
just
we're
exciting to
exploring-
hear that it's on the horizon, and that it's something that you're considering, because I do know obviously with smaller vehicles that is an option, but fire department is not known for small vehicles. So.
No, we are not.
And I just, as a note, I had intended to send an email after the fact, but there was a fire in my ward, and the residents that it impacted could not say enough great things about everybody that they dealt with the fire department, how they were there almost immediate, like so responsive, and then really help them walk through everything, which it's incredibly traumatizing, as you know better than we do, to have a fire in your home, and every single person in the department that they interacted with was just incredibly supportive, incredibly responsive, and we really appreciate your work.
No, thank you, thank you. We're very proud of our fire department. I think we do a great job, and can't say enough about the members. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to concur with Councilmember Farrell. Out of respect for this committee, I do try to go last with my questions before we open to other council members, but often those questions that I have do get asked in advance. So I just have one question for you before I turn it over to Councilmember Hoey, just to expand on Councilmember Keegan's question. So, and this is for actually Gideon here. You had mentioned that approximately $500,000 is in contracted services for ambulance for expenditures. Can you just explain then the difference in what is included in 7465 for EMS expense for $50,000?
Oh, those are emergency medical supplies, not
emergency
medical
services.
Yeah.
Understood. Thank you. Okay, with that, we're going to go to Councilmember Hoey.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Chief and Budget Director. Chief, we touched on, one of my big things was training, and 3 or 4 of the council members brought it up. I'm curious about, with training, is that something that, is there like a national fire college where we can send our firefighters to, get trained in the latest technologies and stuff? Or, I'm not sure, that's what I was asking.
there are various schools throughout the country that it depends on what modality that you're looking to explore. So we'd have to. I think it's not a question that I can answer specifically for you,
Okay.
because it depends on what modality. I mean, there are schools in Texas that are there for gasoline fires or like Port of Albany type fires. There are areas throughout the country that we can that are available for firefighters to go to, and it depends on what certification you're looking for.
Do we offer, like with the local college, like Hudson Valley? I don't think the University of Albany would have, maybe on the medical side, but do we do training here or offer our firefighters a chance, to increase their knowledge, off hours or help them out with education?
There are programs that are available at Montour Falls. That's the State Fire Academy. There are also, the state also has training sites in various portions of the state that would offer, again, specific types of training for those, for different modalities.
Okay. And I got a few things, so bear with me. You had brought up about reaching out to the community, and we're always trying to recruit new, firefighters for the next generation. I know at Albany High School we have a new athletic director, and I got into a conversation last week with her, and it's too late for this year because homecoming's already over. But one of the things we talked about, she'd love to have like the police come, the fire come for the homecoming to make it like a full weekend event. And maybe that might be a place because kids be graduating and thinking about careers and stuff. It might be a good opportunity, and I'll be glad to pass the information on to you and your information on to her. If you think that would be something that we could probably do, it's usually in October, the homecoming, and it'd be like on a Saturday or something like that.
Absolutely. We're always looking for new members for our department.
I wanted to find out, you brought up a few things about grants. Do we have like a grant writer, or is that something the administration provides, or within the fire department, do you have your own person looking for grants that are out there?
We do not. As far as grants go, we explore grants through notifications from FEMA. So there are not a lot of fire department grants out there, in spite of what everybody thinks. The grants are limited, and again, as you tailor it down to an urban fire department of our size and our funding, A lot of grants are not available. We just received some notification that I shared with our new CFM to show him that as you go through the paragraph, and then you get to paragraph 5 that tells you if you're a rural fire department with less than 5,000 people in your area, you qualify for this type of a grant. So there are not a lot of grants that are available to us. There are some, and we have applied to many different foundations, but we have not been successful in getting them because there are other departments out there that are more in need of the funding than our Albany Fire Department is. It's a catch-22 for us because I think we do a pretty good job at managing our budget from our perspective. You know, the city's funds us somewhat appropriately, I guess I could say, and so when you start comparing fire departments, when, you know, we're there, but sometimes it's just the funding is not available. And then as far as like FEMA grants go, you can ask for anything you want. When the FEMA grants come out, the assistance to firefighter grants come out, the AFG grants come out, or the SAFER grants come out, they have, the SAFER grants are different. That's a personal services grant, a personnel grant. But the AFG grants, they focus on, they may have 5 major topics that they key in on. And they tell us, and we go to all the seminars, and they'll tell us, you can ask for anything you want. If it's not one of those 5 topics, good luck. We'll look at your grant application, but you'll go to the bottom of the pile because we're keying in on all those who are asking for these 5 key items. And some of the items may not be good for us. We have qualified, and we've gotten a lot of equipment through federal grants. Our marine unit was funded through a federal grant. The refurbishing of our marine unit was funded through a federal grant. Our self-contained breathing apparatus we purchased through a federal grant. Our fill stations were purchased through a federal grant. But so it's not that we're for lack of looking and applying and winning these grants.
Okay. So. One of the exciting things, and when you mentioned the Breveter Firehouse, we're in the process of moving Wadsworth Labs. They're going to consolidate on the southeast corner of the state campus. Will the Albany Fire Department be one of the, does the state have its own fire department, I guess is my question, or do you service the state campus also? I know you do the university, but I wasn't sure about the state campus.
Well, that's a great question, and if I could take a sidebar and not take up too much time from our colleagues with the police department, but we often bring this up. The Empire State Plaza is serviced by the New York State Police and supplemented by our Albany Police Department. We're the primary first responder for fire and medical to the Empire State Plaza, state facility, state campus, state police with Albany as a backup. We're the primary provider. The streets of Albany, our Albany Police, Albany Fire Department. Albany, any of the universities in the city have public safety teams. Albany PD, Albany Fire Department, first response. We service everybody. Nobody has a fire department. The state does have fire protection specialists on site, but for any major incidents, and they're there for our support, but for any major incidents, it's your Albany Fire Department that goes to all these facilities. So we're the primary responder throughout the city.
So we're going to have to think about that when that building goes up, because they're bringing people from across the state in. There's going to be a lot more people there. I only just got a few more, and just bear with me. The thing that shocked me the most when I looked at it the other day, because your PowerPoint was sent out to us over the weekend, I can't believe the number of fentanyl overdoses that you're dealing with. It looks like 939 to date. And you did mention about you keep track of the statistics. Do we know how many deaths? I mean, there were overdoses, and we've hopefully saved most of them, but do we have an idea on how many people actually died with the overdose?
We do, and just for clarification purposes, that's not just fentanyl overdoses.
Okay.
It's anything that's listed that our firefighters would list on a patient care report. And that's part of some of that information we're able to glean out of those reports. But the answer to your question is yes, we do track that. We could tell you age groups for overdoses. We could tell you gender or what people identify with. So we do track. We have a lot of information regarding the overdoses. It's something that, because we're part of the county program, we work with. We just did cooperative training with the police department and the CARES team that came in Joseph's house to talk about some of the issues on our streets. So it's again, we're trying to encompass fire department training. We're trying to encompass community training. We're trying to get involved with the other organizations, because our firefighters deal with these issues every day, and we're out there, and these other organizations are trying to help. So we all have to work together. So that's why we're trying to bring them in, and again, as the lead, we're trying to be the leader. We want to be at the table. We want to be the lead agency at the table. So we bring all these agencies together to try and work together so that we can facilitate and maybe come up with an answer to some of the issues.
Okay, and it looks like we've almost doubled the number of overdoses from last year to
That's
this
correct.
year, and it's something that we're going to have to deal with. But thank you, and thank your men and women that are taking care of this. I had reached out to you a couple of months ago. We put together the Violence Prevention Task Force, and I know we had Jonathan Green had served on it previously, but is that something maybe we can get the new position on the community service to help us out on that?
We can put it out there.
Sure.
We'd have to see what the interest is from our membership.
Okay.
So from our members.
And then my last question or point is command staff. You guys aren't unionized, are you? Are you considered management?
No, we are not.
So, does the city take care of you guys? I'm kind of concerned as, the turnover. At some point, you'll have to step down. The assistant chiefs will have to step down. Do we have pay rates that are compatible to like Troy and Schenectady for your command staff? Is that something we really should be looking at, that we're being competitive with other communities?
Well, we from our standpoint, we think that it's always something to be looked at. The Albany Fire Department is the largest fire department in the region. We're twice the size of any of the other departments, manpower-wise, and the command staff is the lowest paid.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, and we'll see what we can do. Thank you so much. Thank you for your patience.
Yeah, we have a point of clarification here from Councilmember Keegan, then we're going to go to Councilmember Nane.
I just wanted to know, Tom, because you had asked about fire support for the state offices. So the state fire is under Homeland Security, under dishes, and they are essentially a part-time workforce. So they're only activated when a state of emergency is declared, for the most part. I just thought it was important for the public to understand that concept. They don't have permanent full-time staff that are on duty regionally spread across the state of New York.
Well, they do have full-time people, but they don't have firefighting capability. So
But that's more,
so
that's
if that's
more
what you
I'm
mean,
trying
yes.
to say. Like our fire staff would really only be activated if there was, like, for example, a large forest fire or some sort of other natural
Correct.
disaster. Otherwise, they're typically considered part-time staff.
Correct. That is correct, yes.
Councilmember Nane.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. First, I just want to thank you, Chief, for everything that you do for our city and the capital region as a whole, and all the rank and file members for all that they do to make sure that Albany is a safe space, safe city. My first question is more so with the overtime. I see that there's been a reduction in overtime as relates to money that's going towards overtime from 2024 to 2025. Is there a reason why? Can you talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, as the chief mentioned, I think we brought in, 2 classes over the past maybe 15 months, and we're bringing in another class here this fall. we remain at full staff. We will come in 2024 significantly below that $2.2 million overtime projection, and 25 just brings it more into line with where we're running. And if we maintain at full staff, that's where we're going to come in at.
Thank you. And then my second question is more so, there's been a lot of discussions about, training for the firefighters, and I'm not sure if it was mentioned before this meeting, but just looking at maybe potential training facility right here in the city of Albany. Is there something that the council can advocate for to make sure that we have a training facility right here in the city for your rank and file member, or just for your fire department?
We'd always take your support for advocating for a training facility. The Albany Fire Department hasn't had a training facility of its own since, I think, 1973. So we are currently exploring options that we have. We've been in contact, both myself and President Mengel have had sit-down meetings with people from the county that have talked about helping to support getting a training center in or as close to the city of Albany as possible for enhancing the training of our career fire departments up along the Hudson River corridor. So it's something, again, being the largest fire department in the region, in our opinion, we think we should have one. So if we'll take support from anyone that can help us to put forth a training facility.
Yeah, you definitely have my full support, and I know there's some council members definitely in full support as well.
Thank you.
And another thing too, and this might be a shameless plug for, some of the real estate that St. Rose have. So just kind of keep that in mind if there's any space that, the fire department might need. Pine Hills is a wonderful neighborhood to look at as well too. But just want to say thank you for everything that you do for our city, and also the firefighters, the union, everyone. So thank you.
Thank you.
I think we have an additional question from Councilmember Ballerin.
Thank you, Chair. It's more of a comment than a question. I want to just thank again the unions for coming out today and speaking. I don't envy the chief, and I definitely don't envy our budget director. Our budget director has to work with the administration, with 15 different council members, with all the different departments, with the unions and everybody else to try to make the numbers work. But that's all part of government, and that's part of our government. So I appreciate our budget director willing to take that task on. But I also appreciate the unions coming and speaking, because there are some things we can work on the budget from this point on, and there are some things that we can't. So I think that's also very important for us to, be honest about. There's very little we can do about salaries based on the charter of the city. But there is something we could do in this budget about trainings, because that is in our discretion. So I appreciate the fact that unions have come out and speak, and I also want to encourage. I'm sure many of my colleagues will say the same thing. Don't hesitate to give us a call. All our phone numbers are on the website. So if there's a private conversations union members want to have with myself or my colleagues, I encourage you to do that, because it allows us to have a little more insight and a little more information about what a different sector of our workforce is going through. And when we're having these conversations, it allows us to have that insight, and how we can try to not just figure out these numbers, but other issues in our city. So thank you again for being here. Thank you again for all your service and all your work to our city. I think we are all going to have a good conversation on these issues, and we appreciate you guys bringing them to the light, to us, because if you don't do that, we don't know. So we appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, I'm just going to see if we have any additional comments or questions. Okay. I think we've reached the end here. Chief Gregory, thank you again to you, your team, the union, others that have joined us this evening, and all the work you do for our city day in and day out. You are truly Albany's bravest, and we thank you for your time this evening, and have a good rest of your evening.
Great. Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Thank you, council
Thank you.
members. Appreciate it.
All right, we're going to take a 2-minute recess to transition to Albany Police Department, and we'll get started shortly. Okay, we are going to get started momentarily if members can get back to their seats. Okay, going to get started. Thank you everyone for your patience. We are now going into our second topic for this evening, which is the Albany Police Department budget. With us today, we are joined by our Deputy Chief, Batuello. We are also joined by our Budget Director, Gideon Grande, and we're joined by our support, Kevin McDonald from the Police Department, as well as Judith Logan Edmonds. Thank you all for being here this evening, and thank you for all the work you do for our city day in and day out. With that, I'll hand it over to Deputy Chief Batuello for his presentation.
Thank you, Councilmember, and good evening, everybody. So we'll start with our mission for the department, which obviously has not changed over the course of the years. Obviously, our main goal is public safety, and this budget will reflect some new programs that we decided to embark on, specifically with recruitment, as well as trying to reinforce our infrastructure and our fleet. Next. The core programs or functions, for our department, again, have stayed consistent with the theme regarding community service. I want to highlight specifically our Citizen Police Academy, which just wrapped up about 2 weeks ago. I believe we had 9 graduates from this last class. And the next academy class will be scheduled to begin shortly after the new year. We're eyeing March. So applications for that will begin shortly after the holidays. The CLP, the Community Liaison Program, with April Bacon's support from our community, continues to go strong. We have had consistent coverage with that with our academy class, which we now have 7 recruits in our police academy for session 12. And they've been continuing on with that program as well. Our 2024 recruitment efforts, we spent approximately up to about $50,000 in our overall operating budget. As you can see, the list of different job fairs we've encountered. We've also did some advertising and marketing, specifically starting to target the New York City Police Department and lateral transfers, which seems to be the big pull for departments across the nation. They've all kind of had the same idea and mindset to go down to New York City and try to lure some of those officers away into their individual departments. Also getting into the professional sports programs, specifically with the New York Mets program for this current season. And as you'll see later on in the presentation for 2025 goals, we're going to continue on with that theme, including the NFL. Some highlights for our accomplishments in 2024, specifically with the big renovation project at our headquarters at 165 Henry Johnson Boulevard, as well as our new traffic safety division, which was the old home for our communication center, our 911 communication center at 170 Henry Johnson Boulevard, is now complete. There are some odds and end things, as you might imagine, for a major renovation project of around $3.4 million that still have to be tidied up, mainly some touch-up painting and things of that nature, but it is complete and everything's fully operational. Obviously, our 911 Emergency Operating Center was the jewel for headquarters. They are now the very next door neighbor to the largest crime analysis center that we have in New York State, which are our tenants and neighbors down below on the first level of headquarters. I'm going to turn this over to our CFO, Ms. Judith Logan Evans, for the acquisition of our new mobile command center to explain, the hard work that her and her team, including our fleet manager, Kevin McDonald, did to acquire that.
Good evening, everyone. So in July of this year, We actually made the purchase of a mobile command vehicle, which we thought was vital and will reap great benefit for the City of Albany Police Department. This vehicle has all of the technology that's necessary for staging and crisis solutions. We replaced two vehicles that were old and antiquated. So this command center actually has the technology that will greatly benefit our officers in critical areas that are necessary to support the city and the community when we have to respond quickly. In addition to this vehicle, we also are going to be securing a rapid deployment vehicle, which will also assist the officers with regards to mitigating situations that occur that we have to act rather quickly and swiftly on. I can have Kevin, our fleet manager, talk a little bit about the technology as well as the mass system that we have are being upfitted for.
Sure. Good evening, council members. My name's Kevin McDonald. I'm the fleet coordinator for the City of Albany Police. The mobile command center right now is getting outfitted with a Wilbert camera system, which is a tower mast that is deployed by air. It's mounted on the roof of the vehicle. It'll go up about 20 feet at the end, and it'll be 360 capability, and I believe it'll have night vision or flare, so we can kind of see what's going on around us. This kind of vehicle would be good for like a Live at 5. We could deploy it. We could kind of see what's going on in the crowds. That would be great. This mobile command center has, like Trudy said, is got the greatest and latest technology. We don't have to plug it into a telephone pole at the Washington Park Center anymore. Everything, the Wi-Fi capabilities are extraordinary. We can actually house 14 people in this vehicle, so if we have a critical incident, the chiefs, the commanders, anybody on scene can actually deploy and use this vehicle to assess the situations and deploy anything out of there at that time.
So as some might remember, our two vehicles that we're replacing with that, just to remind the council, were over 15 years old. I think one was actually 17 years old. And the maintenance just became way too exhausting to repair. So they were non-operational. They've been non-operational for quite some time. And our Skywatch, which is the long tower that we usually deploy sometimes to certain events, was also becoming expensive to maintain. So this camera system that Mr. McDonald was speaking about actually takes the place of that once this mobile command center is deployed to a large-scale critical incident. Obviously, any public events that we have in the city, the Tulip Festival, things of that nature, large gatherings there. So it's definitely going to be a boost to our operations on the street, and obviously, it's good for public relations as well. So overall budget of roughly about 3% increase total for our expenditures. As you can see, by the chart here, really that's related to personal service. Our operational budget went down slightly, specifically in the contractual expense line. We still have some large contracts that we're dealing with, especially with regards to technology, namely Axon and the software that we have for that outfit. But that's it. And the revenues, we can speak a little bit more about later in the presentation. Grants, same thing. We're going to continue on the theme with our gun-involved violence elimination, our GIVE grants. GIVE 11 is about to be activated. We're still waiting for the state to sign off on that contract. It'll end next June 30th. Homeland Security grant, we've acquired another roughly $250,000. About $300,000 in funding for that as well. And that's going to be attributed more to technology advancements throughout the city to assist investigations. Same with the DCS Law Enforcement Technology Grant, same around the same price tag. And that will also go towards a new mobile cell phone software system that the Detective Division will be utilizing towards their investigations, as well as our scanning equipment, which is usually deployed for large crime scenes, and fatality accidents that we have in the city. So again, our 2025 goals, again, the implementation of new technology like I just spoke about with the new cameras that we intend on putting throughout the city. We have some intersections that we want to address with current cameras and put new cameras in its place, but also broaden the scope for our camera system as well. And then the school zone speed program, which everybody is now well aware of, is up and running. We intend to make sure that becomes more efficient and smooth as we start to roll out these zones. We have another zone going online this Thursday, October 10th, in fact, which will now leave it to 4 areas, I believe 4 or 5 areas throughout the city, and we'll start inching our way closer to the 20 that is allocated for. More facility improvements to improve our infrastructure. We have aging facilities, as everybody's well aware, in the city. The police department is no different. We intend on remodeling the lobbies in the center station and south station, specifically to address security enhancements. The bathrooms in both stations will be looked at some point in 2025, as well as, it's not listed here, but as well as our fitness facility that the officers and non-sworn folks in our department utilize. For training, we're obviously going to continue on the theme for professional development and try to broaden that scope the best we can with the budget that we have. We're very fortunate to have that robust training, travel and training request line that we have in our chief's office, and we definitely utilize that to its fullest this year. We have a number of trainings that our personnel are attending this fall, in fact, so we usually go right to the end of the year with that budgetary item. And again, to expand upon our goals for 2025 is recruitment. As I said before, we're going to continue on with the professional sports programs that we've already advertised through, which again was the New York Mets. I believe we have the New York Jets and the Buffalo Bills programs on tap right now that will continue into 2025. We also sat through a session with an advertisement firm that I guess is kind of the big rage right now, where departments are utilizing trailers at the movie theaters. This would be right before previews for new movies coming out, before the audience sees the movie they're going to see. New York City Police Department has already done that. So we sat through that demo, and it's pretty impressive, so we're going to look into that as well. It's expensive, as you might imagine, but if it can get more feedback to bolster our recruitment efforts, then we're going to look at it. Capital budget, again, to stay on the theme for the 2025 goals. We have the police station infrastructure improvements tailored at $500,000. Our vehicles and equipment replacement line, is that 1.4, Gideon? Yep, $1.4 million. That will be for roughly about 15 new vehicles, in addition to the smaller command center that Judy was speaking about earlier. The public safety IT system is related to our CAD and RMS upgrades, which we have a consulting firm right now that we've already contracted with, and they are crafting the RFP that we intend to be posted sometime this month, and hopefully have somebody under contract by after the first of the year. So that'll be a large project that's going to go into 2025. Ready for questions?
Thank you for your presentation. Thank you all of you for joining us this evening. And also I want to thank our union members who joined us with your public comment and express your concerns. I'm sure that's going to come up as part of our questioning here this evening. With that, I will start with Councilmember Keegan.
Hi, thank you, Madam Chair. And again, thank you all for coming here this evening, wading through all of AFD's budget presentation and being the last to speak with us. I know we're keeping you sort of way past the end of your standard workday. And I also want to acknowledge our union members who are present. I appreciate your feedback and expressing your concerns with regards to the budget priorities. However, I do want to note that I don't think that either the city or the union can comment specifically on internal contract negotiations. So just know that that may be part of the reason why nobody up here is quite digging into your concerns. My first question for you, Deputy Chief, is where are we really with staffing comparison to last year? In terms of the real numbers with all of the folks who may be out on leave versus our actual fill numbers that we're trying to get to.
Yeah, so we have a total of 75 real vacancies as we sit here tonight. That number is inflated, council member, as you mentioned. We have some folks that are out on job-related injury as well as military leave, so I don't have that exact number, but it is way more than that. It's north of that number. With that breakdown, you know, we have 62 police officer vacancies, 11 sergeant vacancies, and 2 lieutenant vacancies that make up that 75. So a total of 267 members of the department are active right now, and that includes the command staff members.
Okay. And can you talk a little bit about the total number of beats that we're trying to operate versus our ability to properly staff those beats and how that's impacting mandatory overtime, so on and so forth?
Absolutely. So it does not impact the mandatory overtime because the beat officers do not count towards patrol division staffing. We are budgeted for a total of 19 officers in the 10 beats that we have throughout the city of Albany. Right now we have 11. So currently there's 8 vacancies on those beats. The only beats that do not have coverage as we sit here tonight are the Delaware Avenue corridor as well as the Upper New Scotland Avenue corridor. And as I mentioned offline, you know, those beats are going to be addressed shortly.
Okay. And then one of the other pieces or really critical pieces that I think we feel throughout the city that I think has been hampered by the ongoing staffing issues that we have is the ability to really have a traffic division that is able to do traffic enforcement regularly around the clock. I know when I've reached out to Daryl Gibson, he's been very kind and says, okay, you know, I can get people down New Scotland corridor this many days a week, but we're not going to be able to do, you know, have anybody routinely stationed there for rush hour. Can you speak a little bit about where we are in terms of being able to have that unit back up and running versus are we still kind of where we were 3 years ago?
Yeah, to be perfectly candid, we're not close at all. We just simply can't keep pulling from our patrol division, which, you know, really is the heart and soul of our operations. So I'm just being perfectly frank with that. The command staff is meeting on a weekly basis. We're also meeting with all of our lieutenants on a bi-weekly basis right now. We're scheduled for monthly. The group felt it was best to do this bi-weekly moving forward to discuss planning, you know, across the board. How are we going to reallocate our resources that best serves the community is really what this comes down to. You know, there is no talk of eliminations. There's no talk of, you know, any kind of consolidations, you know, across what we have to offer. But expanding upon what we currently have is just simply not really our focus right now. It's more or less kind of making sure we have everything we can to do to keep our officers, you know, all the resources they need to keep moving forward, especially our youngest officers, which are really working around the clock. Our detective division, obviously, as it always is working tirelessly to do what they do. So again, this all kind of, you know, revolves around the same idea, right? So traffic safety, as important as it is, we have 7 officers allocated to that division, you know, including the sergeant and lieutenant, as well as the support networks for mounted and K-9. So we're going to continue on with those programs, and that's not going to change. But, you know, how can that assist patrol division? How can that assist neighborhood engagement? How can that assist the support network of our detective division? It's all going to intertwine. So a lot of tough decisions are going to be made coming up, and we're doing the best we can to, you know, not make it big changes because that's not going to go well for anybody. Again, we're very stressed, and we're very cognizant that our officers and our non-sworn support staff are stressed. So we're just doing the best we can.
I mean, I imagine staffing is also impacting your ability to retain folks, as I've seen in many other places across the state. And then last year we had, and I was very excited about this, I think everybody on the council was really excited about this. We wanted to launch the embedment of social workers within APD to help both alleviate the stress of certain functions within the department, but also to provide enhanced support to officers when they're dealing with disturbed persons calls or DB situations, the types of things that really require somebody who specializes in that, you know, area to help officers really better navigate those community interactions. Can you talk a little bit about where we are thus far with that program? And I just wanted to note too, in looking at how the city projected salary rates for those, we're pretty substantially below what the state is paying. I don't know if the degree requirements may be slightly different, because I know most state positions require a license, although they did revamp their civil service title series. So now you can have an MSW functioning, I think, at an equivalent of a grade 18, which would top out significantly above what the city is paying. And then your LMSW would start above what the city's highest salary range would be. And their LCSW positions are like in the six figures at this point. So can you speak a little bit about what progress we've made towards developing that component of the department?
Yes, absolutely. So due to recent retirements, specifically on our command staff, I've now been plugged back into operations over the course of the last 4 or 5, 6 weeks now. My understanding is, retired Deputy Chief Foley, Commander Harrington were overseeing that project. They ran into some issues with the title, with social worker. From my understanding, there's some licensing that needs to be acquired to fill those positions under that current title. So what we've done in the last 4 or 5 weeks in discussing this with city administration is change the title. So we now move to, and I'm happy to announce that crisis caseworker is the new title. It was just recently approved by the Civil Service Commission. So the social worker position posting has been removed, and that's been uploaded as of today with that new title. It's a little bit broader, to my understanding. It doesn't run into the same regulations that we were dealing with the social worker title. So we're hoping for a better turnout as far as actually getting folks, to apply and actually hire those positions, which 10 and 2, correct? So 10 crisis caseworkers and 2 supervisors for that unit. Commander Harrington will be overseeing that project and also be tasked with making sure that they're staffed appropriately throughout the stations.
Okay. And are we still planning, once we get fully staffed, to have those folks 24 hours available 7 days a week to APD officers?
I believe we're looking at days and afternoons right now.
Okay.
Is the goal, is the first goal, and if we need to expand it once we get the interest level that we're hoping for, we certainly will.
Because one of my largest concerns with the city has been our reliance on mobile crisis,
Yes.
which again is subcontracted to a private agency, and that team is not necessarily always fully staffed, and if they're engaged elsewhere in the county, it could be hours before anybody comes to assist with APD. And I think we certainly have the population density to warrant really starting to develop our own process and our own program in-house. And then my last question.
Just, we're going to jump in here with some clarification questions just based on what you said on the topic of the social workers. So for, I'll jump in and then Councilmember Farrell. Can you just go over the title adjustment? What is that now called?
Yes, it's a crisis caseworker.
And when you say it's more broad, is that lessening the education requirements?
I don't know. As I sit here tonight, I can get back to you with that portion of it. I just know that the licensing was not going to be an issue with this new title as it was with the social worker.
Okay.
That was because now I do environmental law, but before I did environmental law, I did the New York State profession. So I should have mentioned it during the last budget, but I knew that DAs could hire social workers, so I thought maybe there was something with police departments, so I was not surprised to find out that we were unable to hire social workers. But it is, so we're doing a title change, but so we're not getting licensed professionals anymore.
They won't have to go through that regulation now, is my understanding,
Well,
so.
No, but they also can't be licensed professionals if we're hiring them. So what exactly is the educational, like what are we hiring now?
Right. Yeah, no, I'll have to get back to you on the specifics on it because our HR director just sent that over, I think, less than a week ago, and it's already been approved, so I can get back to you on the specifics on the job description.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something that, you know, we obviously appreciate and understand if it's something that you are not legally allowed to do, which I will say to everyone, they are not legally allowed to do. If you are a New York State professional, except for a few carve-outs, nurses is one of them, in specific situations, you are unable, you have to be in your own group. You can't work for something else because you could be put in a situation where you would violate your license. So there's a lot of legislation on it and back and forth on it on all of the 53 New York State professions, but at the same time, so it's totally understood that we can't hire these specific professionals because that's not possible. But it is then concerning because then exactly, you know, what is our plan in terms of, and it can be completely fine, but it just would be, I think it's important for us to know if we're not hiring, that was the promise that we made last time.
Right.
If we're not hiring these professionals, you know, how are we making sure that that same level of care is happening? And if that's not the case, are we better off working with the DA's office where we can have those professionals as part of our workforce, working with the DA's office? So I guess that's, you know, I don't know that it's better for us to not hire licensed professionals in this specific situation, so.
I would just note that Mobile Crisis, which is the current entity that's providing support to APD for this specific purpose, does not require licensing.
I mean, I do know that the spirit of what we were trying to accomplish with this program is preserved. I mean, because this title is still going to allow these individuals, and I mean, you know, our HR director made sure of that this individual will still be following up and caring for those, you know, those folks in need of, you know, that are suffering from some kind of mental health concern or illness, and making sure they get the services they need. So the spirit of that has been preserved with this title.
And that's, I mean, there's just different things that you can do as a licensed professional. For example, you know, licensed clinical social workers have diagnostic authority. That might be something that's actually important to have within the police department as part of these goals, because that's how you get services specifically for people. You have to have a diagnosis. So if that's something that we were looking for as part of this program, it would be important to have that in a different way. That's not usually what people are looking for in a situation like this, but it would be helpful for us to know that we make sure that we're actually covering all of those, and also not violating licensure laws by having people perform services that they shouldn't be doing because they're not licensed professionals and are not licensed to do those services. So,
Councilmember, I can send you the job description tomorrow morning first thing, and please share it with the whole council, and, you know, let us know if any adjustments need to be made. Obviously, we'll take care of that if necessary, but, you know, I do believe that the spirit of it has been preserved just from reading the contents of it.
And I would just also note for the record that under the spirit of state law, if for example, APD were to have somebody that needed to be properly and appropriately diagnosed under the function of mental hygiene law, the appropriate entity to do that would be the county commissioner for mental health, whoever the county, and that for the purposes of right now is Dr. Giordano. And he has the authority to write the 72-hour hold order at the request of APD or any other entity within Albany County. And that is the entity that, or the individual that Mobile Crisis would refer to as well. And then my sort of last question for you, and this was something that I had put on my budget request for this year because I don't think it was clear that we were doing this, and I found out from the mayor that we were, is in relation to the Albany Navigates program, which you didn't highlight in your budget presentation, but is highlighted in the budget book. I was hoping you could talk a little bit more about the department's experience with the implementation of that program and where specifically you see that going as we move forward.
To be honest, Councilmember, I can't speak to that tonight. I'm not plugged into it. I know Commander Harrington has been working with the mayor's office specifically on that project, and no updates have been provided to me at this time. So I'll get briefed on that and get back to you.
If you could, one of the detail pieces that I would be looking for is to know who specifically is involved in those regular meetings. I know when I spoke with the mayor, and for anybody who's watching, it appears to me from looking at and my discussions with the mayor that Albany Navigates is very similar to the hub program that's been implemented throughout Massachusetts that started with Chelsea Police. It involves regular meetings and coordination with a number of different entities within the county that can help to prevent somebody from having interactions with law enforcement. And I know in speaking with the mayor that the hospitals were not actually currently engaged with Albany Navigates, which means that the folks that you're frequently seeing in the ER are not necessarily on the radar of the Navigates team, but I'm interested to know who else besides the county is involved in those meetings, because you have a myriad of service providers. You have the Housing Authority, and you have large agencies like Northern Rivers, Trinity Alliance, who are also having a lot of contacts with various individuals in the community who may be moving up in terms of the spectrum of needs and ability to be supported in the community that would be beneficial to be incorporated into those regular discussions so that, again, when we have folks that are starting to decline, either because they're not taking their meds or they're facing eviction, what have you, there's a plan in place so that we don't end up with those folks on the street, creating even more problems and issues for themselves as well as for the community. So it would be very beneficial to get sort of a detailed understanding of who's at the table right now and where we think that's going as we continue to implement the program. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll get that
All right,
information
thank you
over
so
to
much.
you. Absolutely.
Councilmember Valorant.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for being with us today. I guess I want to start off with how are the members, how are the officers that were involved in that car accident, how are they doing?
Recovering. Recovering, some uncomfortably, some comfortably at home.
Okay. And the officer that was shot a few months ago?
The same. Yes.
So I'm glad to hear they're recovering. I'm glad they're doing better. I'm assuming they're not back on the streets yet.
They're not, no. They're still out of work.
Okay, good. I'm glad they're getting time to heal. So really, just by those numbers, we're really down 80 at a minimum.
I'm sorry?
If we look at the 75 vacancies,
Yes.
at least 5 officers that we know of that are all out of commission because of illnesses not illnesses, because of incidents that happened while they were on duty. And is it safe to say maybe not a 10, maybe,
Specific to job-related injury or?
who just not able at this time for whatever reason, either job-related injury, doing service overseas, or out for family reasons. Is it safe to say maybe an additional 10?
Again, it'd be a guesstimation. I don't have the exact number, but I would say closer to 15 probably. 16. I was close.
So that was 1/6?
Yes.
Okay. So roughly that's about 90 90 sworn officers were down
Yes, sir.
right now. Okay, and I appreciate that because I think it's important for us to have an open and honest conversation about this, and how can we try to recruit and retain some additional staff. And I guess I'm going to ask a couple of questions that may not have to do with the numbers that are in front of us. You know, is there any conversation about taking the pension system from a 50-50 to a 50-55 if people stay longer? So if people stay beyond the 20 years, you know, or even a 50-60 if someone's willing to stay as long as 30 years. Is there any conversation about looking into that? And I know right now that would be a burden on the city, but this is a state issue, and is there a way to have the state cover those additional costs?
I mean, I can confirm that we've had discussions, absolutely, especially with our largest union, the PBA. The second part of what you said, council member, is the key, is retention. I've already highlighted our recruitment efforts. It's not for lack of trying, certainly, that the numbers that are turning out to our entry-level exam are not good. We've done the best we can, and we're going to continue to do that. That push will remain forward, and we'll remain positive with that effort. But the retention part of it is key. We have too much experience, too much talent, too much skill in our department to just make it too enticing, quite frankly, for our senior members of our department to just leave and walk out the door with all that experience, with all that skill, and with all that talent. And we also need them to help out our youngest members of the department. It's twofold. They need to look upward and see that experience and what to strive for and what the standards are in our department. So I can turn over to our budget director if he wants to comment on some efforts that we have made with the state. I don't want to get too thick in the weeds on that because some things are still being negotiated and talked about with the unions on that effort, but it has been discussed.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the state covering any of the cost of pension enhancements, that's unlikely to happen. Obviously, if they were to cover the cost of any pension enhancements we were to make to our plans, they would be on the hook times 3,000 municipalities in the state. That would be probably very difficult for them to absorb. As Deputy Chief said, we have discussed, can't get too far into it, obviously, in a public meeting, but enhancing the police pension has been discussed, yes, and it does carry a significant fiscal impact, yes.
I totally understand that, and I think maybe there's a program or something that we can try to encourage the state, maybe a 50-50 kind of shared burden. I mean, this is a statewide issue. This is a national issue, and when we were 90. For me, that's number I'm really looking at, because officers who are unable to be, on the street and take a shift, that to me is, something I would hope the state will look at and be open to consideration of, initiatives they can take. They have a bigger packet than we do, to try to address some of these issues. I mean, some of the officers we're going to lose are still in the prime, and many times we would probably have not lost them in the past. So I think anything we can do to try to keep those seasoned officers, I would support, to try to move this issue in a better direction. So I know we spoke a little bit about the sworn officers. Can we talk a little bit about our unsworn staff that is part of the police department's jurisdiction? I'm going to start with telecommunications. I see there's no increase in range for our telecommunication partners. Do we have any vacancy information about where they are currently compared to what we budgeted for?
Yes, sir. So we have 39 budgeted positions. We have 15 vacancies as we sit here today. 22 are active between our supervisors, senior dispatchers, and our specialists. And then we have 2 that are about to be onboarded this week. Actually, I think early next week, in fact. That will raise that number to 24, which makes it the 15 vacancy rate. So that's where we sit today.
Okay. And that is based on 31 telecommunication specialists, correct?
No, there's 22 correct right now. And there'll be 24 with the addition of 2 new employees.
Okay. But it's based on, so the budget, so the nice thing about being old is, so we did a study. We brought an external entity to come in and do a study on our dispatchers, and they recommended we increased our number. And we increased our number to, I think it was either 33 or 34. And then 2 years later, we decreased that number back to 31. So really, we should be aiming for a higher number based on the study that came from the external contract, external vendor. So I would add another 2 to that vacancy. And I guess I'm saying I'm focusing on this because that's 15 vacancies out of 39 is a huge percentage. And I'm assuming this union's doing negotiation?
It is, yes.
Okay. So, do we have any information of when? Do you have an idea getting in of how we're doing in those negotiations? I know you can't share a lot of public. I know. I always put you in the hot seat. I apologize for that.
Yeah, I mean, we're in active negotiations with this unit, so we're going to decline to comment in a public meeting. If you'd like to call executive session, that would be a different story.
I'm not trying to call executive session. I'm just trying to emphasize we need to do what we gotta do. You know, we heard from our other unions that's not sworn in today. You know, they don't have a contract. You know, our telecommunication union isn't here today, but I know they've had these issues in the past. You know, so I think we need to find ways to address it. These are not big unions. You know, 37 in you know, the non-sworn officer, non-sworn unit, and 39 and I may be even lower than that, because I'm putting everybody in that. You know, look, the whole department's only 40, so even if you put everybody in, that's 40. You know, so I understand why it's tougher to negotiate with our police department when we've got, you know, almost 300 officers. You know, I get that 100%. It's a much larger number, but here we are looking at more reasonable numbers that would have a not as big of an impact on the overall budget. So I do hope we can address those issues sooner than later, because it doesn't help with morale. And I think we already have a lot of morale issues in the department in general. And anything we can do to address the morale, I think it's something we should look into, both for our sworn staff and our non-sworn staff that are all serving our residents. And with that, I'll leave. I did have another question, but I think it's in my notes, so I will leave it for other members. And again, I appreciate your time, and I appreciate everyone coming and speaking to us today.
Thank you, sir.
Councilmember Farrell.
Thank you so much, and thank you all for all the work that you do, and working to keep us safe. I know it's not always easy. In fact, it's usually very hard. and we appreciate everyone's service, and we believe that everyone is part of the police department, whether you're sworn or non-sworn. So thank you for your service for everybody that works at the police department. So when it comes to our new officers, from what I've heard, there's a lot of mandatory overtime. What does that look like? How much are they working a week? That's some of the things, the feedback that I personally have heard are some of the issues with retaining our newest police officers.
It's been excessive, to be honest. You know, we have to abide by the collective bargaining agreement as far as, you know, how that it gets enacted with the seniority ranking of our officers, and we have a lot of backfill for our staffing for the patrol division to fill in. You know, it was alluded to already in this meeting that we had a few officers sustain some major injuries recently in the line of duty, and a blow like that just takes a certain number right out of the squad that they're from. So we're dealing with that on a weekly basis again. You know, so we're evaluating the details that we have out there. Clearly, we have the Pine Hills detail that we staff every single weekend, and some other areas that we're addressing. So what we're trying to do right now is trying to limit the ability to mandate some of the overtime and try to give some of these officers a relief. It's easier said than done, as you might imagine, because we still have a mission to complete, and that is to uphold public safety. But we are trying to do all we can for those officers. And I can't speak highly enough, even in a public meeting right now, about the PBA and how supportive they've been in that process. You know, their leadership has been extremely, forgiving, quite honestly, and definitely cooperative in that charge, because, you know, without that, we wouldn't have that possibility to be flexible in some of our staffing needs. So they understand, you know, kind of the predicament that we're in, and are on board to help us try to figure it out.
But, I mean, I guess my question is, how many hours are they working?
I can give you an example of one officer in particular had 87 hours in 1 week, not too long ago. 87. So as you can imagine, that's not sustainable. And we take a look at that. We make sure that we try to, relieve some of that, the best we can, like I said. But we have needs everywhere, and we're just making sure we can do what we can do to help that out.
And obviously that's not sustainable in terms of just being a regular person and trying to live your life. But I also would assume that it's difficult to, that the longer you work, especially in a tense situation like being a police officer, it's harder to do your job at the quality that you would personally want, I'm sure. So there's, I would worry about safety things too, just in terms of if you're working a lot, driving even. And I know that it's also, you're in a tough situation. Nobody wants this. It's like having a screaming baby at the grocery store. There's literally nobody that's there like, I wish my baby would scream. And I'm sure right now, there's never been a situation where anybody in a police department was thinking, it would be great if we could have people working this many hours. So we know that that's not something that there's any desire for, but it is absolutely concerning. And how often are we losing our newer officer, or like, what are our retention rates?
I'm sorry, losing council members?
Yeah, like what are, our retention rates? Are we, how often are we losing officers that are moving to other departments, things like that?
We haven't seen that in quite a while, knock on wood. What we are seeing the attrition rate happening is at the academy level.
Okay.
So right at the academy level, from the entry level positioning, they're recognizing at some point in the training that it might not be for them. And obviously that does not come mandatory overtime at that education phase, for them introduction into the police department. So that's what I'm seeing lately, with our academy class turnouts. As far as losing it through lateral transfers to other departments, luckily we have not had that issue since about 2021.
That's great, because I know that that was a mission of the police department to really work to stop that from happening, try to keep our officers as much as possible. So in turn, because we have a longevity pay line, so I was going to ask about that, if that was something that we've looked into increasing to kind of keep people longer, which I am curious about, but then it also seems like when we're losing them at the academy level, is it something where it's just, they're just not, they've started going through and they're like, actually, this is not for me?
Yeah, I mean, it's not just at the first week or two of the introduction to the police academy, right? We're seeing this 3-4 months in, which is unheard of. And, you know, I mean, I have to cite the obvious statement here as well. This is not unique to the city of Albany, as you all know. You know, this is a nationwide crisis at this point and what our profession is dealing with. So, you know, we have departments across the nation that are honestly closing their doors. So this is not something unique to us. You know, we're just trying to figure out other ways to, again, recruit and retain the individuals we have.
So last year it was a newer thing, the concept of hiring like the summer help to kind of supplement all of the different
Auxiliary officers? Yes.
Auxiliary officer things that we wouldn't necessarily need sworn officers to do.
Right.
And I noticed that the 2025 budget was cut in half for that. Why was that?
That summer help line is not for the auxiliary officers.
Oh, okay.
Their wages are located in the salary appropriation. Those summer help are the interns associated with the GIVE program.
Oh, well, never mind. Do you mind saying the line that I don't know what they're called now, the auxiliary officers are in, not the non-summer
Yeah,
help,
they're
summer
funded
help?
in the salary line at that $27.5 million number there at the top.
And those are part-time employees, Councilmember.
And they're not necessarily retired. They're people that are, I mean, those are all different. I don't think they're necessarily retirees. They're people that are kind of helping with because there's a lot of things that happen, like with the Live at 5, you're not necessarily going to need like a sworn officer there. You can have a non-sworn person kind of directing people around and things like that. So I don't know that there's a requirement that they're retirees, but they obviously could be.
I only asked that question because I recall that the chief mentioning maybe a newer program trying to implement with retirees, trying to get them back in. I don't know if that has overlap into the question here around the auxiliary summer help.
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay.
And then just so in I know that we're looking for a title change for the social workers, but are we still hiring the senior social workers, or are we just hiring the 10 positions?
No, we're going to strive for the supervisors as well. Absolutely.
So there'll be supervisors.
Under the new title.
Okay.
Yes.
And then my last thing, I'd just love to note that do you really think we need more animal control officers? There is a big need for them, and I know that there's 3 for the whole city, and at least in my ward, it's as if we don't have any because and that's not to say they're not doing a great job, they are, but we have a lot of animal issues, from dogs to raccoons. Like we're just dealing with a lot more animal things, and every time there's a call or anything like that, it's like people point to everybody else because there's not really anybody great to deal with it. And it's my now yearly plea that if we could please have something that was more effective than what we're currently doing, because what we're currently doing is not working. It's not working for the animals. It's not working with people dealing with the animals. It's just not working. And what's happening is we're ending up with a lot of different dangerous situations that is not being solved and not even being addressed. So if there is, and I was talking to some animal rights advocacy people that were talking about different solutions. I'm happy to connect people, but we're not doing a good job with it. And I think that we need to do things very, very differently. And I don't know exactly what that looks like, but it is my plea for us to do something different, because what we're doing is not working.
We'll certainly take it under advisement. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, a couple questions from me. First, just acknowledgement that I appreciate that there's a plan in place to address the beat officer shortage. As a council member that represents one of the 2 areas that are impacted and currently without a beat officer, I do appreciate the forthcoming solution to that issue. So thank you for your efforts there. And just to echo the piece on the animal control, agree that we have a myriad of animal control issues that seem to be ever growing, and it is very difficult from a resident standpoint, but even a council member standpoint to find the right person to address these issues, or to furthermore address in a timely manner, just based on the short staff. So my question is, are we full? Are we at capacity with the 3 officers?
I believe so. Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you. And then I do want to acknowledge Local 3185 that joined us tonight with their concerns. Although we can't discuss much here today, I will say that I'm hearing that our non-sworn in some positions haven't received raises for over 29 years is very concerning to myself, and I'm sure the council. So I do hope that as you navigate the process that you're going through right now, that we end in a good position for our non-sworns.
Thank you.
As it relates to a question I have in regards to revenue, Gideon, can you explain why towing fees have decreased to 0 for the 2025 budget?
During this year, when the executive proposed an increase to the towing fees to the council edited the legislation to eliminate the city administrative fee and give that entire fee to the towing contractor.
Thank you for triggering my memory on that front. Okay, and also, I do want to check in on the positions for the personnel. So there has been a removal of the payroll administrator and an increase to a principal payroll administrator. Is that because you were having a trouble filling that vacancy, that you had to increase the salary, or are there just new needs beyond what was previously listed? Looks like the title has advanced.
Yeah, that position is currently filled. The department felt that the role, and as did HR and admin services, that, as the largest payroll in the city, that position just needed an upgrade.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's a retention effort, Councilmember.
Thank you. Okay. All right. With that, council members joining us, we have questions from Councilmember Hoey.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Deputy Chief Petuello, and your associates. I wanted to thank you and Chief Hawkins for providing officers at our Violence Prevention Task Force. And I just want to state that Officer Cancer and Officer Ballerin came to the first meeting, and Officer Cancer made such an impression on people. We heard nothing but praises. And then the next day, you know, he was in that accident, and it was just, it hit us. And I just want, you know, he's in our prayers, and thank you for continuing to, even though you're short, we feel that the violence prevention, being part of that is important, that, you know, and that's what we're all striving for, is to bring down the violence in our city. I do, Kevin, you're going to be mad at me, but during the, when we were talking about the towing fees, some of the stuff that came up was that we depend on the tow truck companies to do like tire changes and some minor repairs. You know, I heard from some rank and file members that a lot of our vehicles at Center Station don't work. Can you give like an update to where we are with vehicles? Or, you know, do we have a lot of vehicles that need to be serviced? Do we need to buy more? If you don't mind. Sure.
Mr. Hoey, thank you for that question. Our vehicles are maintained. We do have some issues with the tow companies responding to handle flat tires if they're experienced. So what I've done is taken the initiative to have tires stock at each station so that if a tow company can arrive, that tire is ready to be repaired. We don't usually have a lot of vehicles out of service, but they do break down at any given point. So at some point, there might be several vehicles that are in the shop being repaired. We do experience delays in getting parts, so that will slow down the repair process as well. But typically, we aim to try to have as many police vehicles out on the road as possible for our mission.
Now, I know the fire department has like vehicle repair. They have a department that takes care of that. And I believe that the Albany Police Department back, maybe it was the 70s, also did that. Is that something that we should maybe start looking at again, that we do stuff in-house rather than depend? Or can we do something in cooperation with the fire department? If they have good motor vehicle repair, is that something that we can do, like shared together? I mean,
Yeah, I'll take that, Councilmember. So, I mean, I surely wouldn't want to speak for Chief Gregory
Yeah.
and his, you know, his mission there, but that's certainly something we've discussed internally, and we'll continue to explore that. But as of right now, it's not an option.
okay. But maybe we should have more cars and spares that, you know, if a car is out, because we know parts are getting hard to get.
Yes.
And if we had that longshoreman strike, it would have probably been worse. But yeah, I am concerned that when I hear that we don't have enough vehicles on certain days, that's something we can take care of. We can't bring a recruit in or bring, you know, more police in right away. It's going to take a long process. But we can have the equipment that's needed, and it's, you know, it's a safety issue too for our officers, you know, on the street. And then the last thing I just want to bring up, I brought it up with Chief Gregory. I had a long conversation with the new athletic director, and we were talking about having a homecoming and showing the jobs that are available. I don't know how much, you know, Albany Police have been at the high school, but we have over 2,000 students there. You know, a career in policing is a good career. It pays good, and we have students there. So I don't know what efforts has been made locally at our school. You know, I'll ask you that.
Yeah, I mean, our recruitment team definitely has done that. You know, Officer Cancer, as you know, is very well ingrained in our school system, and you know, with the to reach and connect with the youth in our city. So he is part of our recruitment team. You know, one of our HR generalists, Megan Yellen, actually helps lead that charge. She does a phenomenal job at it, and all the officers, Officer Bowers, including that mix as well, have been fantastic with that. So not only at job fairs, excuse me, or local colleges and other local areas like Crossgates Mall, they are ingrained into Albany High School as well. and
Okay.
trying to spread that effort.
And I'm
that
gonna,
interest.
I'm gonna share your information and the new athletic director's information. It's just another, way that we can try maybe to help out.
Absolutely.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Any remaining questions or comments? Councilmember Bellerin.
Thank you, Chair. So I remembered my other questions. How many sworn officers do we have that have more than 20 years? Do you have a rough number of how many that we have?
Just police officers, Councilmember?
Yes.
Yeah, it definitely is low. We have 218 active police officers, and that includes detectives, in that number. I'm sorry. 35 to attribute to that number out of the 218. So we are a very young department.
So 35. And how many vacancies do we have in the non-sworn division? Non-sworn, non-communications. Basically, the union that came and spoke to us. Do we have any? Where are we on vacancies?
We will have to get back to you on that
Yeah.
number.
Okay, that's fine. I am glad that the department is looking at ways to retain individuals. I think that's important. I think we need to be creative and bold in finding ways to, get additional funding either from the state or the federal government, if need be, to keep more of our officers and keep more of our non-sworn staff as well. I mean, these are not, City of Albany does not have a lot of remote work, and unfortunately, well, let me not say unfortunately, it's the new generation. The new generation does not want the big office with the big, with the big desk, and they don't want that. The new generation wants to be on a laptop by the beach. And I don't blame them. But that's not the jobs we offer here at the city. Our jobs are not remote jobs. So if we're trying to keep people that are doing the day in, day out, difficult jobs that not a lot of people want, we need to find ways to, one, retain them, and two, attract them. Because if we don't, it's going to get harder and harder for us to maintain our city. So I'm glad our budget director is always here and willing to listen to us. And I do hope we can find ways to retain these individuals that are doing it day in and day out. Coming in 2020, not that there weren't too many remote jobs that were here for the police department. People still came in. People still answered the calls. So we need to find ways to continue to retain them and recruit them and share the burden with the state and the federal government. If we can find a way to encourage our state representatives and our state elected officials to create new programs for local municipalities to share the burden of the pension, I think we should look at doing that. If we can work with our state representatives and our federal representatives to find ways to create bonus opportunities for retention for those who have more than 20 years. I mean, the number's 35. I mean, it's, again, a reasonable number. I think we should do that because I think we should get that number up. It's going to be harder and harder to recruit new people. It's just a different generation, a different way of thinking. So we need to keep who we have while we fill the backlog. And I think we need to be creative, and I think we need to be bold, but we need to be doing it with a sense of urgency because these numbers just seem to be creeping up year after year. And it's concerning It's concerning also because knowing the new generation and working with the new generation, it's a different mentality. So we've got to keep who we can as we recruit and encourage new blood. And that's probably a bad term, but new people, new young generations to come in and take the mandate. So, look, I'm glad everyone's here. I'm glad everyone's having these conversations. And I know they're uncomfortable at times, but I'm glad that we're willing to have them. Because if we don't, we're just going to find ourselves in a larger hole to try to dig ourselves out the longer we wait. But thank you again.
Thank you for that, Councilmember.
Any further remarks?
Can I just clarify for the record, we have five or six non-sworn vacancies currently.
Thank you. Okay, with that, I believe we have reached our conclusion for tonight's budget presentation. I want to thank you, Deputy Chief Bacciuello, and our others that have joined us this evening. As previously stated, you were second to go, and I know it has been a late night beyond your typical hours, so we do appreciate your time and coming out here. And again, thank you to our union that joined us to express your concerns as well. With that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion from Councilmember Adams, second from Councilmember Keegan.
Second.
Okay, and all those in favor? Aye. All right, thank you, everyone.